call this the June 11th, 2018 meeting of the County Commission to order. To start, invocation by Ricky Jones and Pledge of Allegiance by Beth Lathers, please.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight to ask for comfort and guidance for the families of Houston Aaron and Jack Walton. Both of these men gave years of service to their communities in this county. Especially be with Jack's family in the coming days, and please give them strength and comfort. Thank you so much for this great county, and be with us tonight during as we go through deliberations and the issues before us. Be also with all those servicemen, firefighters, and police officers that constantly put themselves in harm's way to protect us and provide for us. We pray for all these things in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would ask, if you haven't done so already, if you please silence your cell phones during the meeting. Not, I think we're ready for a roll call. If you're here, press your present button and confirm. Maybe. There we go. Is it state the roll? How do I say that? Call the roll. Yeah. Call the roll, Ms. Anderson, please.
I have 21 present, 2 absent.
We had heard from Commissioners Osbrooks is out at a trial that she's having to do, and then Commissioner Beal is out of town. So we have 21 present.
21.
Yeah, but okay, approval of the minutes. These were emailed to you. At this time, we'd entertain a motion. Commissioner Smith, the motion, and Commissioner Lawrence, the second. Any additions or corrections? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have any citizens' communications? Yeah. We have 2 that have signed up for citizens' communication. If you would, when you come to the podium, state your name and your address, and then you have a 3-minute time limit by our rules. So the first is Chuck Shelton.
Chuck Shelton, 312 Toddington Court. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I want to speak to you about the intent to fund the $45 million for the Williamson County Medical Center. And I read in the paper yesterday, Mayor Rogers Anderson said these type of bond requests were routine and no different than ones for new construction for Williamson County schools. Issuing the bond note will come at no cost to taxpayers, with the Williamson Medical Center covering the annual debt service. And I thought, this sounds very good, and I said, but there's something that doesn't seem to be right about this. And first of all, I was thinking, the Williamson Medical Center is its own private entity. Why are they going to the county to have a bond issuance? So that was my first question. Second question was based on observations. I remember in 2010, our county debt was about $500 million, and I understand at the end of September, with what our current intent to fund is, will be about $756 million. So what I see is a gradual increase where I don't see that ever getting down to paying it down. I mean, the total, I think it's just going to keep accelerating, and I think that's one of the reasons we have the $20 million federal debt. And so, and then I recall a meeting that we had here, a county commission meeting, in which the bond issuer for the county said that we were the second highest per capita debt county in Tennessee. So I see a gradual shift for more and more debt. So my question is, why doesn't the Williamson Medical Center, since it's its own business entity, issue their own debt out on the debt market? So I would encourage you to vote no against this bond issuance. Thank you very much.
Next is Candy Emerson.
Hi, everybody. I'm here as a citizen. I live at 900 Hunters Court in Franklin, Tennessee, and I serve District 8 on the school board. But I'm here tonight just as a citizen. And I wanted to thank the commissioners who have taken a stance on alcohol and the alcohol referendum. I'm a big believer in choice, and I think it's important that those establishments in our little unincorporated area down in Grassland have the opportunity or right to decide whether or not this is the right thing to do for their business. I also recall that because of the way and the delay that happened, it put Grassland Market out of business. And I think that sometimes we over control, and I think it's important that we consider this anyway. I just wanted to let you know that my constituents support it by and large, and I think it's an important thing to be considered. So I just wanted to thank the commissioners who decided to kind of band together on this, and I appreciate so much the opportunity to share with you my feeling about this. Thank you.
Next, we have communications and messages. We have two late filed resolutions. We have Resolution 6-18-36. Is there any objection to hearing 16-18-36? It was on your agenda, and it was emailed. The contract that goes with it was placed at your side today. So, are there any objections? Hearing none. The other one is 6-18-37. It was passed out and placed on your desk tonight. Are there any objections to hearing that one? Okay, thank you. My next announcement is the public hearing for the budget will be tomorrow, Tuesday, the 12th at 5:30 here in this room. So the public hearing on the budget, Tuesday the 12th, 5:30. Next, I think Commissioner Sturgeon would like to say a few words.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a few words regarding Jack Walton. I got to know him more and more after I became a commissioner, and he was just one of the nicest men I know. He was a true gentleman. He never had an unkind word to say about anybody, and I really admired that for him. And he was supportive of me as a new commissioner, and not everybody is always supportive of new commissioners, and that was a choice that he made, and I'm very grateful for that. He's got a wonderful family, and he's going to be very, very missed in District 8, and we're sad about his passing. Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Paul Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jack Walton III called me just before I came to this meeting tonight and said it was okay to make this announcement that Wednesday the visitation for Commissioner Walton will be from 4 until 8 p.m. at Williamson Memorial Funeral Home. The service will be at St. Matthew's Catholic Church on Sneed Road, with that beginning at 11 a.m. on Thursday, with visitation to be from 9:30 a.m. until the start of the service. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other communications or messages? Okay. Next we have report of county offices. Oh, the proclamation. Excuse me, I skipped the proclamation. Mayor?
Mr. Chairman, tonight, Lauren Cassie and are here to represent the proclamation, which is labeled Alzheimer and Brain Awareness Month proclamation. Alzheimer's, the most common form of dementia, a general term for memory loss and other cognitive abilities serious enough to interfere with daily life, and accounts for 60 to 80% of dementia cases, and is the sixth leading cause of death in the United States. Every 65 seconds, someone in the United States develops Alzheimer's disease, and there are currently over 5.7 million individuals in the United States with Alzheimer's. There are 16 million Americans caring for people with Alzheimer's or other dementia, accounting for over 18.4 billion hours in care valued at over $232 billion. 83% of the help provided to older adults in the United States comes from family members, friends, or other unpaid caregivers. 1 in 3, about 34%, are age 65 or older. In an effort to increase the awareness of Alzheimer's disease and other related dementia, address cognitive impairments, promote brain health, and meet the needs of caregivers, the Tennessee General Assembly recently passed Senate Joint Resolution number 619, urging the commissioners of the Department of Health to designate Alzheimer's disease and other dementia as a public health issue. And the state of Tennessee has the 7th highest Alzheimer's disease rate in America, representing a 205% increase in Alzheimer's deaths since 2000. Williamson County wishes to express our appreciation to Senator Jack Johnson and State Representatives Charles Sargent, Glenn Cassida, and Sam Whitson for their support on the Joint Resolution 619. It is by my signature that we designate do proclaim June 2018 as Alzheimer and Brain Awareness Month in Williamson County, and we encourage all the citizens to extend their compassion to the millions of people affected by this disease and show their support to the individuals by wearing the color purple or a purple ribbon throughout the month. I've got with me Laura and Cassie, and I'm not sure who wants to speak. Thank you for taking this.
Thank you.
Taking this on.
Just real quick, I've lived here for 15 years. I'm a resident of Leapers Fork. I know a lot of you through working with the CVB in downtown Franklin. I would just want to say how much I appreciate your support. I lost my sister last year. She was diagnosed at the age of 51, passed away last year at the age of 59. I promised her that I would continue this fight even when she couldn't. It's get up every day and do it, and I'm passionate about it. And for you all to acknowledge it, it just means so much, not just to myself, but so many other people in our community. One thing that Rogers didn't mention is that Alzheimer's is the 3rd leading cause of death here in Williamson County. So just the awareness that you all are allowing us to bring means so much to everyone. Thank you very much. Cassie?
I see a lot of familiar faces in this room, and I also just want to say thank you to Rogers and Jeff Long and the city of Franklin, the county, Williamson County, for their support. This disease has impacted my life. My grandmother died of what they called hardening of the arteries in her 70s, and we now know that was actually Alzheimer's. And my mother died in her 70s from Alzheimer's, and my sister is now 68 and is in an assisted living facility with Alzheimer's. So I have 2 in my family that were diagnosed with early onset. So it's not affecting just the aging population. This is starting to affect people in their early 50s, mid 50s, and I just appreciate all Laura Musgrave has done to raise awareness for this area, and we appreciate you all's support.
Thank you.
Now I guess we're ready for reports of county offices. Mayor Anderson.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'll ask Nina to come up at this time and kind of give a snapshot of the financial conditions, and also give several of the other commissioners an opportunity to hear from Nina on the report of the Marriott Cool Center Conference Center.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. Our reports in our packet this evening. We have our April month-end budget report. We are nothing unusual to report for the month of April closeout. You will notice in the top section under the revenues there are some brackets there, and that does mean that we've just collected an excess of what was budgeted. So that's a good thing. Down in the appropriations, you'll see a couple of brackets there. Those in the debt service and rural debt service. You will have resolutions tonight to amend the budgets to take care of those overages. That is where we had our bond issue in the fall, and this is the 6-month payment of interest for that. So once those resolutions are approved tonight, that will be taken care of. Also this evening in your packet is your April privilege tax report. We have collected $1.2 million in the month of April, and year to date a little over $8 million. Once we did pay for some buses out of that, which will be on next month's report. I have appropriated around $11 million to go in our debt service funds for next year. I do anticipate to have that collected by the end of June. Also in your packet is the education impact fee. Total collected life to date is $18.9 million. For the current year, you'll see the total there is $16.5. Last fiscal year, we collected $2.4 million. So also in your packets this month is the Cool Springs Conference Center report. We did have a profit this month of $28,028. You also have the year-to-date collections of $180,000. Also have a report from the financial officer from the Cool Springs Conference Center that just recaps what we had in our revenue and expenses for the month of April. So as the mayor said, we did complete the studies for the Cool Springs Conference Center. Head and Appraisal Services completed the appraisal for the real estate portion. That came in at $14.5 million. The conference center was built in 1999, had an approximate square footage of 56,956 square feet. Have a parking lot is 7.8 acres. There is a shared space with the hotel and the conference center for laundry, the kitchen area, and heat and air. The operating expense is split between the conference center and the hotel, approximately 65% for the hotel and 35% for the conference center. The cost to cure is what they stated, the shared space that were to mean if we were to sell and split between the two. It would be a cost of around $6 million to replace the laundry, kitchen, and heat and air services. The business portion of that was completed by LBMC. That had an approximate value of $4.5 to $4.3 million. Based on the unique operations and partnership of the conference center with the hotel, Some of that estimation was varied between the 4.3 and 4.5, depending on how they projected the earnings before interest expense, taking into account income taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Also, because this is a government property, it has a tax-exempt status, which was also a unique factor to consider in this evaluation. We do have an operating agreement in place with the current owners that goes through October of 2027. And I guess the conclusion of this, and I know the mayor will speak to it as well, in meeting with the city, at this point, it's not their desire to purchase our portion or to sell. I think if there were a sale, there could be some issues. Possible breach of contract, would have to look at that. So both the county and the city would have to surplus the property. It could not be a negotiated sale. So there are a lot of factors to be considered during this. The real value is in the land itself, but the portion that we would look at or anticipate receiving any money on would probably be the business portion, which is the $4 million, which we'd have to keep in mind that we would split that with the city of Franklin, as we are partners on that. So I think the total reports or the completed reports, we do have those in electronic form that we can send out if anyone would like to see them. Those are my reports for this evening, if anyone has any questions.
Commissioner Danner?
Yeah, I have a few questions about this. I have talked to one of the city aldermen and got some of this information as well. I'm curious, though, so it had tax exempt status all this time? I was not aware of that. How much would we have made in taxes from this commercial property if they had been paying taxes? Did we miss out?
This is the portion on the conference center because it is county city owned. It is a government facility. I think in the report it was a little over $700,000 is what I read.
Over the course of the time that we've owned it?
I would have to double check that figure.
I'm just wondering if that's a wash with the you know, the $2 million we've made over 20 years or whatever. I'm just wondering what the advantages were of this whole venture.
Well,
And so basically, in a nutshell, we're not going to sell it. The city doesn't want us to buy our portion, and so we don't have any inclination to sell it to anyone else. Is that the conclusion of the report?
So the conclusion that I came to, and I made my presentation to both the property and the budget committee, that no, and not at this present time, because the city's not interested in it. I don't have the values of what the property would mean, but you got to go back 20 plus years. We paid the conference center off, our portion of it, April of last year. And the real reason that we put the conference center in place some 20 plus years ago was to generate revenue, to generate activity, I guess is a better way, for that side of the interstate, I-65. At that time, there was nothing there but a field and Carruthers Road. And so it was felt at that time, from the minutes that we can determine, and I was one of the commissioners that voted for it at that time, that decided that it would be in the best interest to capture some of the business that it would normally be going to Nashville, because we didn't have a conference center anywhere like that in Williamson County to drive that. You have to remember also that we were receiving the hotel motel tax off from the business that has been generated out of the conference center for the last 20 plus years also. So given the fact that, as the report said, and we'd be glad to mail it to anyone, we will not, or I will not be pursuing it unless you all take a resolution form in which you want to direct me to do that. It would not be in the best interest of the county at this time.
And we're free and clear now, so at least we're not paying debt and
getting our little 20,000 a month. At least our 20,000 a month now is free and clear.
Whatever amount of money that
Yeah.
comes in on a monthly basis is
We're
not.
negative because sometimes we lose money.
And you go back, as Nina in the report indicated, that I have no way of calculating what kind of sales tax got off from that, but the business community, the large corporations that come here, the many activities that we have here in town, use it and pay those hotel motel taxes, which is a large sum of money.
Yeah.
I suspect in the revenue that's been generated there, 5% of it set aside for renovations like we did 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whenever that period of time was when we completed renovated, and that money's still being set aside. Currently, our big competition will be north in Nashville, and then if you go towards Murfreesboro, the Embassy Suite over there is a much larger facility and captures that next break that you have. I'll answer anything else, Mr. Chairman, that you may have.
Don't know the question, but you might mention that our audit report, the audit committee reviewed our audit report, and we had the results.
I think it took 5 or 6 minutes. When you have clean audits like Nina is our budget director, but it's really a reflection of all of the other elected and appointed officials. Oftentimes, you just don't realize how much work goes in by all of the other men and women that serve in the capacity and your oversight of it. So this is the second consecutive year that we've had a clean audit with no findings. And so our outside audit team made up of several of the businessmen and women here in town. It took them 5 or 6 minutes to go through that, and they're certainly mailed in advance. But that says a lot to our county and our position that we have here in our community.
Just a side note, my son-in-law is a state auditor, and he said a clean audit report is unheard of for a county government. So he was shocked when I showed him that. So congratulations.
He didn't do our audit, did he?
No. No. Yes. Okay.
I'm just, congratulations on the audit. Regarding the Cool Springs Convention Center, just want to make sure I understand. If Franklin had taken a different position and was willing to sell their half of the convention center, would that change your recommendation?
I don't know that we ever approached, Commissioner, with them wanting to sell. It was the other way around.
Wanting to buy our half.
Yeah. You know, in anything we do in the world, we have to have a willing seller and a willing buyer. And once all of the paperwork's disclosed and it gives you the values, as you heard Nina said, the real value of the conference center, that area out there, is the property, the location on I-65. I doubt that they would give us the optimum price when they know we're interested in selling it. But more so, the legal opinion was we do have a master agreement with the company that operates the convention center along with the Marriott Hotel, and that runs for several more years. So there's always that question of conflict possibly a contract violation. But I like what the commissioner said here, and I've said it in meetings too. It's not costing us a great deal of money, and the cash flow out of it now should be on the positive side enough to offset anything we're looking at. I would also say to you that in the near future, somebody needs to, in this area, look at some additional conference center square footage and place, and because as Davidson County's continued to grow and building out the hotels and motels, there's a sweet spot for those meeting rooms right here in our own community that would attract more activity towards our conference center. And I never want to fall shy. I've always been pro-business, and I won't change now. A hotel motel tax is a very good stable source of revenue, not only for the CVB, but for our general fund too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mayor. Dr. Looney?
Good evening, Commissioners. It's good to see you this evening. We, too, would like to extend our condolences to the Walton family, but also to this body. You lost a friend and a colleague tonight, and or recently, and so we understand that, and we mourn with you. So our hearts go out to you from the Board of Education and all of our employees. We finished the school year with 39,551 students in grades pre-K through 12th grade. As you know from our budget, we're expecting to grow that by about 1,200 students in the upcoming year. If you will mark on your calendar, August the 5th, we're going to have 3 ribbon cuttings for the 3 new schools that will be opening. You'll be getting a direct invitation, but I wanted you to go ahead and mark that on your calendar for the afternoon of August the 5th. That's the Sunday before the school resumes for students. We have 4 fairly routine resolutions before you tonight. I appreciate your consideration of those, and I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have of me at this time.
Any questions of Dr. Looney? I don't see any. Thank you. Are there any other committees wishing to make a report at this time? All right. Moving on then, I believe next is elections and appointments. Williamson County Convention and Visitor Bureau Board of Directors, 3-year term expiring 6/2021, term expiring Judy Hayes, nomination Judy Hayes. Commissioner Herbert, the motion, and Commissioner Smith, the second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Emergency Management Communication Board Districts 3 and 12, filling the unexpired term till March of 2019. The nomination is Jeff Graves. Entertain a motion. So moved. Second. Commissioner Smith the second, and who? Sorry. Beathard the second. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Independent Audit Committee, 3-year term expiring June of 2021. A term expiring Patty Parsons, nominee Patty Parsons. Move for approval. That was Commissioner Herbert and Commissioner Jones, the second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Library Board of Trustees, we've got 2 3-year terms expiring in June of 2021. Term expiring Janan Merrill and Pandrea Paisley. And nominees are Janan Merrill and Pandrea Paisley. Commissioner Webb the motion, Commissioner Jones the second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Regional Library Board, 3-year terms expiring in June of 2021. Term expiring Jerry Bull. Nominee Mike Seitz. Seitz. Excuse me. Move. Lathers approval. It's second. Do we have a second? Second. Commissioner Jones. Dwight Jones, a second. All in favor, say aye. No, yes. Okay.
It says nominee, and it says county commission. How do we arrive at the nominee?
This is the.
So the library board submits the nominees to our office.
Okay. The library board submits the nominees, and we confirm.
So the existing members come up with a nominee. Is what you're saying? Yes.
The remaining members, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the consent agenda. Only thing we have on the consent agenda is notaries, so we have to lead a motion, entertain a motion. Okay. It is loaded on the board. Commissioner Smith, the motion. Who's second? I'm sorry. Commissioner Dwight Jones, the second. All in favor, press your yes button, and opposed, your no button, and confirm. Gotta get my... Commissioner Danner? Didn't take. Okay.
Resolutions tonight that I thought were supposed to be on the consent agenda. Whenever we have an easement for a utility, I thought that was supposed to go on the consent agenda. That's in our rules. Yeah. Yeah, Bobby Cook drafted that up and we voted on it and passed it.
I'd have to go back and check. I don't remember it. But
It's one of the few resolutions I got more than 13 votes on. Okay.
All right, well,
I'm voting yes for the consent agenda, but that needs to be looked at for the future because the whole point of that resolution was to eliminate stuff like the Tennessee Electric Company needing an easement and, you know, so.
yeah.
Okay?
All right, thank you. All right. Okay. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
Okay. 21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. For the consent agenda. Okay. Resolution 6-18-1, a resolution appropriating $575,000 in general purpose school fund budget from current revenues for related trustee commission. Commissioner Beathard?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Jones the second, excuse me. Committee report, Education Committee,
6 in favor, 0 against.
Budget Committee,
5-4-0 against.
and do we have a school board? 11-0. All right, thank you. All right, Commissioner Beathard.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, we budget for 92% of collection of the property taxes. This money, additional money is needed in the trustee commission line item due to the actual revenue for property taxes exceeding that budgeted amount.
Any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor, press your yes button. No, opposed, your no button, and confirm. Okay. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution carries. Passes. Resolution 6-18-2, resolution appropriating $70,000 additional dollars from the general purpose school fund for SRO officers. Commissioner Beathard?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Landrum the second. School board report, assume 11-0. Education Committee?
6-0.
And Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These are just additional funds required for additional SROs.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button, and confirm.
Sometimes the seventh one is the charm.
Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-3, resolution appropriating $180,000 in the 2017-18 general purpose school operating budget for workmen's compensation insurance claims. Commissioner Beathard?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Dwight Jones the second. School board was 11-0. Education Committee?
6-4-0 against.
Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Money in this case is required for additional workers' comp claims that went past what was budgeted for last year.
Any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution carries. Resolution 6-18-4, resolution appropriating $100,000 for the 2017-2018 general purpose school operating budget for utilities. Commissioner Bethard?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Dwight Jones, the second. School board was 11-4-0 against. Education committee?
6-4-0 against.
Budget committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation, Commissioner.
This is for additional propane that was required for a colder winter than what was budgeted for.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're in favor, press your yes button, opposed your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution 6-18-7, resolution accepting conditional donation of $1,975 to be used to purchase equipment for the Project Lifesaver program and appropriating and amending the 2017-18 Williamson County Sheriff's Office budget by $1,975, revenues to come from donations. Commissioner Smith?
Move for approval.
Mr. Hullett, the second. Law Enforcement Committee?
7 yes, 0 no.
Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation, Commissioner Smith.
These are funds being donated to provide equipment for at-risk individuals. For example, folks like were discussed earlier tonight with dementia, Alzheimer's, those sorts of things, that provide a tracking mechanism for our Sheriff's Department to help keep track of those folks, help locate them if they're lost. And these are donations to support that program.
Any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button, opposed your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-18, resolution of an intent to provide an amount of up to $45 million for the construction of an orthopedic medical office building and expansion of women's services at Williamson Medical Center. Commissioner Shelton?
Second.
Commissioner Smith, the second. Public Health Committee, did they meet?
We did. 4 yes, 0 no.
Property Committee?
Sherry abstained.
Oh, she did.
You were a no.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be 5 yes and 1 no.
Budget Committee?
4 yes, 1 no.
Explanation. Mr. Shelton, want to start?
Yes. We are in Williamson Medical Centers is greatly expanding the orthopedic services that provided for the community. And it's probably one of the most lucrative areas as far as the hospital is concerned. The need for a tremendous expansion. We had, if we go back into history, this goes back to the years of Dr. Craig Farrell, in which this group of surgeons were originally at, most of them were at Williamson Medical Center. They opted then to go with Vanderbilt. As time has passed, as they have had the experience with another organization, they found that they opted to attempt to come back to Williamson Medical Center. And we were just very delighted to have them come back. So this group is really, it's not an unknown group in this community, but very well respected. And we have in turn agreed to provide facilities, additional facilities for them. This is a separate building. I believe it's roughly 125,000 square feet on the campus of the hospital. This is the funding of this, as you see in this resolution, is roughly the total project with this, and for women's services also is a total of $79 million, but we're asking for 45. The reason for this, we had gone through maybe 3 or 4 different requests as far as loans were concerned for the funding of this. However, we found that if we were able to go through the county with the county's approval and with the county's AAA bond rating, we could borrow that money for a significantly reduced price, and that's why we've opted to go that way. We're asking that the $45 million would be through a I believe it's a general obligation bond. The balance in various areas will be financed separately, not as far as the county is concerned. Outside of that, this will cost the county nothing. We're just asking to be able to use the AAA bond rating.
Thank you. Any of the other sponsors wish to speak on this time? Okay. Commissioner Lawrence, you have a question?
I do.
Request to speak?
Yes. And then these questions are probably best asked to Mr. Boland, I would assume. Could you please come up to the mic? Is that appropriate? First of all, thank you for being here tonight, and congratulations on being able to lock up these doctors. I understand they're some of the finest doctors, orthopedic-wise, in the Nashville area. So, and this building looks like it's going to be a great asset to the hospital. You're going to add a lot of services there. So it's going to be a great deal for the hospital and for those who need the facilities and the services. So, but I do have a few questions about this resolution because I am struggling with it. The first question I have is who actually owns the land that this is going to be built on? Is it county-owned land, or does the hospital own the land?
I'm going to have to look at Jeff when I say this. It's Williamson Medical Center. This is land we recently acquired, but it is owned by Williamson Medical Center.
Okay, so it's in their inventory.
Correct.
All right. Okay, so when the building is built, is there going to be any private interest in the building? Is it going to be, or is it going to be 100% owned by the hospital?
It's going to be 100% owned by the hospital.
Okay. All right. So basically, you're coming to the taxpayers to ask them to fund this on our AAA bond rating. So is there anything the taxpayers are going to get out of this for taking the risk on this building or putting it on our credit card here?
Well, they're certainly going to get the benefit of having orthopedic surgery local and an expanded women's program local. Both of those things were greatly needed, and it's a way to provide that for the community. And as Mr. Shalfont mentioned, orthopedic surgery is one of our most lucrative service lines, so we're very happy to keep control of that. And, you know, we don't have shareholders. Any money we make goes back into the community.
Okay. So, but monetarily speaking, the taxpayers are not going to get any return for their investment. Okay. Thanks for sending the report. I asked for you to send a report on the profit and loss projections on this building, and what I was looking for there is basically to show that you were going to be able to, by accumulating the long-term leases on the building, that the revenue from those leases would support the note. And it appears that you're going to have plenty of revenue off of this building to support a note. Would that be a correct statement?
That's correct.
Okay. So the building could really be self-sustaining, even if, aside from the hospital, if the hospital were, for whatever reason, not making money, the building itself could be generating enough money to pay the note.
That's likely.
Okay. All right. So in general, the way lenders work is that this is actually the type of facility that they really love to see. You've got a building in a very attractive location, a very valuable piece of property. You've got a medical use, which in general is almost recession-proof, and that's another plus there. And you've got long-term leases that you will have locked in to pay for to generate revenue on the building to pay the note. So, with all of those factors involved, you should probably, if you were to go out and get your own note, which you have, I guess, Council, you sent us an email this week that basically said that they actually have the capacity to do the same thing we could do, but it would just be their bond, not our bond, correct? Could you explain how that works?
What the email you're referring to said is that the hospital has the ability to issue revenue bonds. That does not mean they would be able to get the same rate as the county. And in fact, bond counsel said that's not likely that they could get the same rate, but they could issue revenue bonds as a governmental entity. Okay.
But given that this is all the factors that I mentioned, it's likely you'd get a pretty attractive interest rate. Would that be a fair statement?
We didn't really investigate that from a bond standpoint. I would like to point out, though, we talked about the building being leased. It's being leased by a wholly owned subsidiary of Williamson Medical Center. This Bone and Joint Institute of Tennessee is a 501c3, but we're the controlling party, so it's not leased on the free market. It's leased essentially by one of our subsidiary companies.
Okay, so the revenues from the building, though, will come to Williamson Medical Center. Is that
correct? They absolutely do, yes.
Okay, all right. And you would use those revenues to pay the note, I
yes.
think, correct? Okay. All right, so the question came up in an earlier budget or committee meeting. I wasn't necessarily the budget committee. I think I went to the property committee meeting, and the question came up about the interest rate. And I know you're coming to us because we have a AAA bond rating, and that generates a very low interest rate, and that helps always to get the lowest interest rate possible. But when we ask you the question of what if you could quantify what kind of savings you were going to be able to get by coming to us as opposed to going out on your own, it seemed like it was roughly the same interest rate.
Well, it's a tad higher, but the real advantage if we went out without doing bonds, we'd have to go out and borrow from a bank at a commercial rate. It's a tad higher. When I priced it, it was going to be 3.5% to 4% versus the bonds are going to be 2.8 to 3.2. So there is some room. But the real advantage to doing the bonds is when I go out and borrow from a bank, they might do a 20-year amortization, but it's a 5-year call. They don't want interest rate risk. So the big advantage for us is we avoid the change in interest rates over that 20 years. So that's what's really attractive to us about it.
Okay, but if you floated your own bond, you wouldn't have to do that, correct?
That's correct.
That bond would work the same way our bond would work?
Yes. Okay.
So I guess the question would be, could you get roughly the same interest rate if you floated your own bond?
Well, I believe Mr. Mosley said that bond counsel advised that we could not. It would be a bit higher.
In addition, you would probably have additional costs of a bond issue by the hospital that you do not have in the county side, because the hospital has not been a rated entity. So you would have to go through the process of getting the rating, first of all, which is some expense, and then you would not be able to get the economies of scale of wrapping it in a bond issue with the other county issue. So you'd have additional expenses above it. I can't tell you what that might be.
Can you give
Don
us a
or Paul
ballpark?
may have an idea. I really couldn't tell you.
Could you give us a ballpark of?
No, I haven't asked that question.
Do you have any experience with that?
I don't have that experience.
Okay.
The hospital district has never issued bonds.
Okay. Okay, well, here's what I would like for you to help me out with, because, and just to set up my question, you know, we're looking at, as a commission here, a significant amount of money to put on our credit card over the next 5 years. We're gonna have $400 million worth of schools. We're gonna have to build a new judicial center. We're gonna have to probably build a new jail sometime in the near future. We don't really know what all the cost of those is gonna be. We do know the $400 million worth of schools. All of that's gonna go on our credit card, which is now over $700 million. Our credit is not unlimited, so you're asking us to put another $45 million on the taxpayer's credit card. So given the enormous amount that we're going to have to do that is we're constitutionally obligated to do, help me out here. Help me make the case. Why should I vote for this, and why should any other commissioners vote for this, knowing that you could possibly go out and get almost the same interest rate or very close to it that you could get by using the county credit card versus your own, and knowing that we've got all these other constitutional obligations that we're going to have to fund. So why should we vote for this?
Well, I think it's important to note that, you know, not only are we adding debt to the balance sheet for purposes of bonds and all the calculations, we're also adding the revenues, and we have consolidated financial statements, so it's really a wash. You're adding revenue and you're adding debt, but of equal amounts. So it's not changing any of the county's consolidated financial statements.
But if it's at some point we got to close to a level, and I don't know what that number would be, where our AAA rating might be threatened because we are borrowing so much money that we're getting close to the edge where our bond counsel may say, well, your AAA rating may drop a little bit if we get to a point where we have to borrow $900 million or $1 billion. We're getting $1 billion in debt at some point, you know, and I don't know what that number is. I don't know if anybody in here could tell me what that number is. But you see what I'm saying? I mean, we've got a lot to put on the plate in the next 5 years that we know of right now. So given that you possibly could go out and get the same interest rate, why should we do this?
It does save the hospital some money. Again, the hospital doesn't have shareholders. Any money the hospital makes goes back into the community. So it's a county asset. It's increasing the value. So why not increase the value if it doesn't cost anything?
Okay. That's all my questions, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Commissioner Danner?
Thank you very much. I have two questions. First, I'm happy to see that you've secured the specialists prior to opening the doors of this endeavor. Did you ever, you were ramping up last time I asked, did you ever secure all the pediatric specialists for the Children's Hospital?
We have not.
You have not. Did you start construction or break ground on this endeavor before coming to this body to get your intent to fund?
We did.
Yeah. So when you do that, just for those out there who are running for commissioner or going to be new commissioners, it really reduces the authority of this body to that of just a rubber stamping formality. In the future, I hope my future commissioners would insist that you come to this body first, to do it in order. I hear what you're saying, that it's an investment in the community and you are going to put it back in the community. And again, I'm glad to see that you're changing things up and securing the specialists first. But just out of respect for this body, I would hope that the hospital would not count the votes first and just go through the proper channels in the proper order.
Commissioner Pear?
Commissioner Danner made the same comments that I was going to make, more or less.
Okay. Commissioner Kestner?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hey, Paul, appreciate you being here. A lot of what I was going to ask was covered by Commissioner Lawrence, but I do have a couple of questions still. The lease that you've structured from a subsidiary of WMC of the building, I think it's $27 a foot, is that right? Is that what I remember from your...
There isn't an official lease yet. We did some market analysis to see what it would be, but the lease has not been created yet.
Is that a fair value? I mean, new construction for office goes for a fair amount more than that. Is that a below market rate that you're suggesting?
In our current medical office building, we're using $25, and we were trying to be conservative, so we bumped it up to $27.50. There wasn't any real big analysis around that other than trying to be comparable with other medical office buildings on the campus.
Okay. Well, first, I want to remind everybody that I'm a big fan of Williamson Medical, and it was 35 years ago and 6 days ago that I was admitted here for about 17 days, and y'all did a great job. And Craig Farrell was, in fact, my orthopedic surgeon, so it was a good experience. But I do wonder. I think your debt service coverage ratio today is like 3.0. It's 3.3 to 1. I mean, it's very, very healthy.
Yes.
And so my question is the hospital ever going to Commissioner Lawrence's question, is it ever going to just stand on its own? I mean, you don't need us to secure the loan. You've got better than 3 to 1 coverage, and is the hospital ever going to start doing deals on its own and not coming to the county for debt? Or is that a topic of conversation, I guess, is what I'm...
We've not looked into that. I've not been directed by the hospital board to do that, so I really can't speak to that.
Okay. I mean, I'm a fan of you guys kind of moving out of the basement and standing on your own. The other question I would have is would this GO bond would we have a first mortgage interest in the real estate? I know I figured that might throw you a little bit. I just don't, although it worries me that whenever we own something, it seems like we can't sell it because then there's got to be this process like we heard about with the convention center that, anything you own you can't sell, which kind of bugs me.
You could sell.
You could.
If you sold the hospital, you could only use
that ain't gonna happen
the proceeds for a different reason. But there's no specific mortgage of the property that I'm sure in the indenture, because it is a general obligation bond, which means it's backed by your ad valorem taxes, as in terms of a security. I'd have to go to bond counsel to see if that's an added security in the indenture.
So we don't know if we could or could not take. Now, I'm not talking about. Well, I'm just talking about if this building were to not cash flow for whatever reason, could the county take back this piece of real estate and then sell it? That's the question I'm asking. And it's not what you usually see in a GO bond. It's usually what you see in a revenue bond.
Yet the hospital would have to default on its general payment, its general obligation. It's not whether the building would cash flow or not cash flow.
So this isn't some non-recourse loan that would be coming from. So when we say the hospital is going to cover these expenses, I mean, there's a number of ways you can structure that. You can make that recourse. You can make it non-recourse. And so what you're saying to me right now, Counselor, is that this will be a fully recourse loan from the hospital.
Yeah, the hospital is the
obligor.
The obligor in that setting. It's not.
So it's not really a GO bond. It's a hospital bond guaranteed by the county, right?
No.
It
is a GO bond. The revenues are being used for this project. There will be a separate interlocal agreement between the hospital and the county for repayment of those bonds that will be part of the issuance.
I would never want the orthopods to say, oh, we're going to stop paying this, and the hospital to say, well, we don't have to pay your bond because...
They can't anyway because they don't own it. The hospital, the subsidiary, the Bone and Joint Institute, is a 501c3, and the sole member is the hospital. The doctors could not.
As long as all those obligations are fully recourse, that makes it a whole lot better.
Yeah.
One thing that was very surprising to me is I've heard for 5 years that quote unquote the hospital doesn't cost us a dime. In fact, I think I've learned that we're paying $1.52 million per year and have been since '02 up through 2022 in terms of debt service on the $20 million that we gave them back in '02. Does that comport with your understanding?
Yeah, there was a gift of $20 million during the
which
expansion.
we're still paying $1.52 million per year on, and we'll do so through 2022.
I don't know the funding.
That's what our bond counsel has told me. So okay.
I would not argue that.
All right, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Sturgeon?
Yeah. Hi, Paul. I just have a quick question, and I believe someone answered this to me, but I'd like to put it on the record and make sure I understand properly. Doesn't about $1.95 million flow from the county to the hospital every year as a revenue for the hospital?
Well, that's as a part of the agreement with Williamson Medical Center and Williamson County government for Williamson Medical Center to provide ambulance service. That service doesn't make money, it loses money. It actually loses more than the $1.9 million, but that amount has stayed the same for several years now. So it's covering the loss on the ambulance service.
Okay, so you all provide ambulance service, and we pay $1.95 million a year for that. But you're saying it costs you more than $1.95 million to provide the service?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A quick question for council. If If the hospital was to get these bonds, the loans through a bank, independent means rather than going through the county, and failed to meet those obligations, the county still would be responsible, ultimately responsible for that loan. Is that right?
You'd have to look at how the deal was structured, but in general, if the hospital issued revenue bonds, the county would not be obligated on those bonds, but the property would, in that case, likely be part of the bond indenture and mortgage, so you could lose the hospital as part of a failure or a default in that manner. But really, it's a little bit different because it's quasi-governmental, and even though the financials are consolidated up, it's a separate legal entity by private act of the legislature. So if you did revenue bonds from the hospital, which this body would still have to grant them permission to do because it would be a mortgage or an indenture of more than 3 years pursuant to the private act, then it would have to be collateralized by revenue and or property of the hospital district, and it would not go against the ad valorem taxes in the case of default.
Okay, I think I understand what you're saying.
So the answer is no. The county is not directly liable for a revenue bond that is issued by the hospital itself, just like it would not by any other entity, unless you agree to be bound by it. A general obligation bond allows you to be bound by it, but the backing or the collateral for a GO bond is not the specific property, it is your ad valorem taxes.
Excuse me, thank you for that clarity. That's what I was needing.
Commissioner Wouters.
Thank you, Thank you, Chairman. I just had a quick question. I wanted to confirm, I'm one of the newer commissioners. I understand there's been 3 different opportunities where the county has come in terms of bonding the hospital. I think the one that was referenced tonight was 2002 with the $20 million with that repayment. But I see the uniqueness with this is that this is with complete repayment. Is that correct?
That is correct. The hospital will repay all of it.
And I've kind of heard that over and over again. And obviously, the AAA rating you're going to have as an asset, you will have the lowest bond rating possible that was for our asset. I mean, I've heard different discussion about different opportunities, but it sounds like you can't beat a AAA
this
county
would provide
rating.
the lowest interest rate. We have not seen a mechanism to obtain a lower interest rate.
Thank you for confirming that. I just also wanted to ask you if you could address some of the comments about it being kind of a rubber stamp. I'm a new commissioner. What has the process been like? I mean, I'm sure that you have another means, you know, if this didn't come through. Can you explain that just for some of us, what the process is like in doing a project like this?
Well, what was different about this, this was a very strategic opportunity. There are other hospitals involved. That's not a secret. So when we started talking about this, we really couldn't talk about it publicly. I mean, there were some contractual things in place about non-disclosure and whatnot. So it was really important to sort of keep that not a public thing. And actually, the county or the hospital board did not authorize us to ask the county for money until late May. So there wasn't real action to report on. But you know, we've been working with these physicians for several months. It was back in the late fall or winter when we realized this was likely going to happen. One of the conditions was the physicians had to have a commitment contractually that they would have certain facilities. So we had to make that commitment, and that's why the building is coming out of the ground to meet the requirements of those commitments.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Commissioner Pear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When did you close on the purchase of the property?
Well, we've owned that land for some time. We didn't buy it for this purpose.
Oh, I thought you said earlier that...
Well, we bought it in the past few years, but we bought it when we were building Children's because we needed a utility easement through that property.
And when did you approve the hiring of the contractor to build the building?
I don't know. Julie's our chief operating officer, and she says she believes that was signed in November.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't see any other questions. If you're in favor, press your yes button, opposed your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
15 yes, 6 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-19, resolution appropriating and amending the 2017-18 Election Commission budget by $51,000, revenues to come from unappropriated county general fund balance. Commissioner Webb?
For approval.
Second. Second, Commissioner Hullett. Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation.
As you can see, this is $51,000 to prepare or pay for the May 1st primary election and expenses related to the upcoming August 2nd election.
Commissioner Bethard?
To speak when we get to that point.
We're there.
Oh, okay. Then thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did have a question for Chad Gray, if I could. And I don't know that it's specifically related, and I'll talk while you're walking up here, Chad, but I did have a meeting with Sheriff Long and Michael Fletcher, Representative Sam Whitson a couple weeks ago, and the question came up about the continuance of using our schools as polling locations during election. Of course, this meeting had to do with safety and SROs, but I think the question was being asked on both ends from a pragmatic standpoint as well as a safety standpoint. And I mentioned that I might bring it up to see what other thoughts you might have and your department might have as alternatives to using our schools as polling locations.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, the Tennessee Code annotated says that school buildings shall be used for the purpose of voting and as election day polling places. Most of the time, we don't want to use those facilities, but we have to have ADA compliant facilities for voting. And these are taxpayer funded facilities. So it's not my choice always to use them, but we're required to use them when we have no other location available.
If I may follow up, I know in some cases we also use churches. And I've noticed some of these schools are adjacent to or nearby other church locations. Is there a mechanism to request those churches to maybe take the place of the school in certain instances to be that polling location, maybe reduce the number of schools that we're using?
Many of our churches are used for that purpose, and they're very gracious to do so. However, churches are not obligated to host us for voting. For example, in the 2nd voting district, we had a church that started hosting a homeschool group, and they said they could host us for 2 out of the 4 elections that we've held this year. That provides a bit of a problem for our office to navigate through trying to locate facilities for this purpose. Although there are many churches that are very gracious and we never have that issue come up. But that's certainly something we can consider. But when we have an ADA compliant school that's adjacent to a property, a church is not always compliant with ADA regulations. That's kind of where we are.
Well, and I appreciate everything that you do, Chad, and your department does. I know you work tirelessly over there. And if on all of the other things that are on your plate, if something can be endeavored to be done to find other ADA compliant locations. I know it's an SRO's worst nightmare, I think, probably on election day, when the school is open in multiple spots where those doors would normally be closed. We live in a great county, God forbid anything would ever happen. But I think also just probably the school would probably do better on those days. It also came up as I guess there are some, if not in Tennessee, other states that may close their schools on Election Day. I don't know if that's ever been looked into, but I know you're looking into it, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, may I comment just briefly about that? The school board has been gracious to close every November election the past 4 elections, and going forward, I think we'll be in a dialogue with them about other elections throughout the calendar year. But we have elections all the time, so it presents itself to be a little bit difficult for our office.
Seeing no other questions, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-22. Resolution appropriating and amending the 2017-18 library budget by $15,000. Revenues to come from library fines. Commissioner Webb.
Move for approval.
Commissioner Hull at the second. Library Board.
6-4-0 against.
Budget Committee.
5-4-0 against.
Explanation.
As you can see, this is a collection of library fines which will be used for other supplies and materials at the library.
Any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor, press your yes button and confirm. Opposed, your no button and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Late filed resolution number 6-18-36. Resolution, did I miss one? They stuck? Then I've got them out of place.
There you go.
I stuck that in the wrong spot. Excuse me.
23.
Okay. Let's try Resolution 6-18-23. Resolution appropriating and amending the 2017-18 solid waste sanitation budget by $30,000. Revenues to come from unappropriated solid waste sanitation fund balance. Commissioner Webb.
Move for approval.
Second. Second to Commissioner Jones. 300,000. Excuse me. I'm having trouble talking tonight. Please pardon me. Budget Committee.
5-4-0 against.
Did the Municipal Waste Board have a vote?
Yes. 4-4-0 against.
Thank you. Explanation.
You want to do that one?
I can. We have to haul this leachate, and with all the rain and everything, our expenses are up, and it costs quite a bit to haul it to Nashville to have it to be treated.
Okay.
Nancy's here if you need it.
Any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor, press your yes button, no opposed button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-24. Resolution appropriating and amending the 2017-18 medical examiner's budget by $53,475. Revenues to come from unappropriated county general funds. Commissioner Webb.
Move for approval.
Second. Commissioner Hull at the second. Public Health Committee.
4 yes, 0 no.
Budget Committee.
5-4-0 no.
Explanation, Commissioner Webb.
As you can see from the attachment, this amended the budget to cover the autopsies because of the increased number of deaths in Williamson County.
Any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor, press your yes button, and opposed, your no button, and confirm. Commissioner Pear?
I'm trying.
Throw it, David.
Thing doesn't like it tonight.
Waiting on your library
I meant to say I was going to vote my conscience.
Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-25. Resolution appropriating and amending the 2017-18 solid waste sanitation budget by $26,000 for Trustees Commission, revenues to come from unappropriated county fund balance.
Move for approval.
The second from Commissioner Hullett. Budget Committee,
5-4-0 against.
explanation.
This is the Trustees Commission we've been talking about as revenues increased.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. We're waiting for the board, Commissioner. All right. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
Okay, 20 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-27, resolution appropriating and amending the 2017-18 Rural Debt Service Fund by $1,085,825 for interest payments, revenues to come from undesignated fund balance. Commissioner Webb?
Move for approval.
Second. Commissioner Hullett, the second. Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation.
This is the mini rural debt service. This is revenues coming from undesignated fund balance to pay on the rural debt bonds.
We should be on 26. On 26.
Okay. Since the motion is up, do we carry through with this one?
Just ask them to withdraw it.
Just ask them to withdraw the second and the motion.
Withdrawn.
All right, we'll go backwards. I'm having troubles tonight. Please.
Take a deep breath, Tommy.
6-18-26, resolution appropriating and amending the 2017-18 County General Fund budget by $225,000 for Trustees Commission, revenues to come from unappropriated fund balance. Commissioner Webb.
Move for approval.
Budget Committee.
5-4-0 against.
Explanation, Commissioner Webb.
You can see this is the Trustees Commission from unappropriated fund balance as we're doing these tonight.
Okay. Commissioner Sturgeon.
Curious, and this is the bill, right? But I'd like to know how much more revenue comes with that bill. Is there anybody that can answer that? What the percent commission is, or, I mean?
Can Nina answer that?
I'd like to know how much extra revenue we're getting for the commission that we're paying the trustees.
The trustee's office has a listing of commissions based on the revenue type, but most of it is 1%.
Oh.
So at the beginning of the year, it is just a projection. So that's why we kind of have to wrap it up or clean it up at the end of the year on the June resolutions.
So if we're paying a commission of $26,000, they're collecting, what is that, 2.6 million?
That's just I don't have the total amount of the commission paid for the whole year. This is just the addition to get us through the end of the budget year.
I understand, but what I'm thinking is when I see a bill for $26,000 to the trustee, in my mind I can think, okay, well that means we just brought in like $2.6 million, more than we anticipated, approximately. Correct? If it's a 1% commission. Am I not
and some
understanding?
of those at the beginning of the year, and I did increase those for the current year, but if you raise those projections at the beginning of the year, it does calculate into your your property tax calculation at that time. So coming back and cleaning it up at the end of the year also helps with that.
So this doesn't mean that we actually collected more money than we expected. It does mean that.
It's more expense than was actually budgeted.
But my understanding was it's more expense because they're collecting more money or more revenue for the county.
For the budgeted amount, yes.
So there's no way to know how much more money we're getting for that additional
I can,
trustee?
but I don't have that in front of me. I can try to get that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And part of the answer to that is the revenue that it shows in our sheet, that when it's in the it shows here the percentage is higher, over 100%, which means we've collected more than we budgeted. So that's
A good measure
where
of
that's
how much.
that's the measure of it, yes. So,
Thanks, Tommy.
any other questions? Thank you. Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button, opposed your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Now, Resolution 6-18-27. Resolution appropriating and amending the 2017-18 Rural Debt Service Fund by $1,085,825 for interest payments, revenues to come from undesignated fund balance. Commissioner Webb.
Move for approval.
Commissioner Hullett, the second. Budget Committee.
5-4-0 against.
Explanation.
As you can see, these are for the new bonds, and this is interest payments for the first 6 months from closing.
Any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor, press your yes button, opposed your no button, and confirm. Commissioner Smith, yours did. Thank you. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-28. Resolution appropriating and amending the 2017-18 General Debt Service Fund by $777,065 for interest payments, revenues to come from undesignated fund balance. Commissioner Webb.
Move for approval.
Commissioner Hullett, the second. Budget Committee.
5-4-0 against.
Explanation.
This is similar to the last one. This is new debt from the general obligation bonds, and this is an interest payment for the first 6 months of this year.
Any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor, press your yes button, opposed your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-29. Resolution appropriating and amending the 2017-18 County Attorney's budget by $35,000. Revenues to come from unappropriated county general funds. Commissioner Webb.
Move for approval.
Commissioner Hullett, the second. Explanation.
Budget Committee 5-4-0 against.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'll help you. The amount originally budgeted for the county attorney's fees was not adequate for a number of meetings and other events he had or they had to work on, so this is fixing the budget for this year.
Are there any questions? I believe the explanation, this was related to the number of lawsuits, had litigation that they had to defend. So, seeing no questions, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, your yes button, opposed, your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-30. Resolution appropriating and amending the 2017-18 County General Miscellaneous Budget by $25,000. Revenues to come from unappropriated county general funds. Commissioner Webb.
Move for approval.
Mr. Hullett, the second. Budget Committee.
5-4-0 against.
Explanation.
This is, again, a year-end cleanup. We want to make sure we have adequate funds in this line item to cover any cost that may come up from the convention center through this remainder of this fiscal year.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button, opposed your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-31. Resolution appropriating and amending the 2017-18 general debt budget by $85,000 for Trustees Commission, revenues to come from unappropriated county fund balance. Commissioner Webb?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Hull at the second. Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation.
This is another Trustees Commission from the issue of bonds this year.
Are any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-32. Resolution appropriating and amending the 2017-18 Rural Debt Service Budget by $88,000 for Trustees Commission, revenues to come from unappropriated fund balance. Commissioner Webb?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Hull at the second. Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation.
This is another Trustees Commission, this coming from the Rural Debt Service Budget.
Any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button, and confirm.
Hush. Your nose button. That was good.
Mr. Jones?
We push it with our nose.
Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
No. Late file 35 next. Okay. Resolution 6-18-35. Resolution appropriating and amending the 2017-18 County Beer Board budget by $850. Revenues to come from unappropriated county general funds. Commissioner Webb?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Hull at the second. Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation?
There have been more beer board meetings this year than anticipated, so this will fix the budget for this year for $850.
Any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, your yes button. Opposed, your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Okay. This late file is going to come very last, right?
Correct.
Let me stick it under there. Okay. Resolution 6-18-5. Resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to sign a grant contract with the State of Tennessee Finance and Administration Office of the Criminal Justice Program on behalf of the 21st Judicial District Public Defender's Office to provide funding for a new social worker's position. Commissioner Smith?
Move for approval.
Who is Commissioner Herbert the second? Law Enforcement Committee?
6 yes, 0 no.
Budget Committee?
5-4-0 no.
Explanation, Commissioner Smith.
As you see, this is a grant contract for a social worker position in the Public Defender's Office. 3-year term, $60,000 each year, for a total of $180,000. Does not require a match, and once the funds are exhausted, the position shall dissolve. So, ask for your approval.
Are there any questions? Commissioner Mason.
Thank you. I just want to say I'm very excited about this program, given the fact that I do work closely with the Office of the Public Defender, and we are seeing an increase in those indigent defendants that are needing mental health evaluations as far as getting into alcohol and drug rehab facilities. And so I think this will be a great asset for our community in order to help facilitate getting people into those programs.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-6, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into an interlocal lease agreement with the City of Fairview for the joint use of a facility to provide emergency response services. Commissioner Smith?
Move for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Ricky Jones, the second. Law Enforcement?
6 yes, 0 no.
Budget Committee?
5 yes, 0 no.
Explanation.
As you can see, this is an agreement with the City of Fairview to lease a portion of property they own for rescue squad services in that area in the City of Fairview.
Any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-8, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Williamson County Sheriffs and the Franklin Special School District for the provision of school resource officers. Commissioner Smith?
Move for approval.
Law Enforcement Committee?
7 yes, 0 no.
Budget Committee?
5 yes, 0 no.
Explanation.
This is a renewal of a memorandum of understanding between the FSSD and Williamson County Sheriff to provide SRO services. It just describes the nature of the services provided.
Commissioner Danner? Any other questions? If you're seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-9, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into an interlocal agreement between the Williamson County, Tennessee, and the town of Thompson Station for the provision of law enforcement coverage. Commissioner Smith?
Move for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Hester, the second. Law enforcement and public safety?
7 yes, 0 no.
Budget Committee?
5-4, 0 no.
Explanation.
This is an agreement with Thompson Station in which they will provide some funding for us to provide for a portion of each day a dedicated deputy serving that area of Thompson Station.
Note this doubles what it was last year, I believe. So, any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button, and confirm. Commissioner Chalfant? Didn't confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-10, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Williamson County Board of Education for the provision of school resource officers. Commissioner Smith?
Move for approval.
The Education Committee?
6-4, 0 against.
Law Enforcement?
7 yes, 0 no.
Budget Committee?
5 yes, 0 no.
Explanation, Commissioner Smith.
Again, this is a memorandum between the Sheriff's Department and our own Williamson County Schools that lays out the working arrangements of providing SROs in all of our schools.
Any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-11, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute a facilities use contract with the Tennessee Soccer Club for periodic use of Williamson County soccer fields. Commissioner Hester?
Move for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Ricky Jones II. Parks and Recreation Committee?
Parks and Rec Committee did not meet because this was our only resolution and it didn't require any revenue.
Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation.
This is a year-to-year renewal. We've done this for several years with the Tennessee Soccer Club. And this allows under 18-year-old soccer leagues to use the Williamson County soccer fields. The Tennessee Soccer Club does provide us with a use fee, so this is for the enrichment of young people in Williamson County. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-12, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to grant an easement to the Tennessee Wastewater Systems Incorporated. Commissioner Sturgeon?
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Dwight Jones II. Property Committee?
Property. I think we had 7-4-0 against.
Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation.
Yeah, this is just to, we're allowing sewer to run through county property to help the Inman family get on sewer.
Are there any questions? Commissioner Danner.
Can I ask Bobby, is there an exception into this one, the next resolution and the late file that prevents these from going on the consent agenda?
No, Commissioner, I'll have to, I was asked that, and I did remember running a resolution through, but when I went back and looked at the minutes, I didn't see them in there, so I really didn't even think about it until you brought it back up. But I do believe there was a rule that you passed, or
Yes.
this board did pass, if the form was already approved, like the Middle Tennessee Electric one.
Yeah.
So no, there's not really an exception for these ones. It was just my oversight.
Okay, good. I just was making sure I didn't dream that. So if you all remember me for nothing else. Yes, they are on the, not that they're not important, they are. But for utility, they can go on the consent agenda, and I'm giving you the gift of time. All right.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, your yes button. Opposed, your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-13, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to grant an easement to Middle Tennessee Electric Membership Corporation. Commissioner Sturgeon? Commissioner Sturgeon?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Ricky Jones II. Property Committee?
I'm trying to remember how many people are on the property committee.
7.
You caught me asking. It really is 7. Okay, I was right. Yeah, so it was 7-0.
All right. Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation.
This is so that we can put a power pole up, and we're providing an easement for that power pole.
Any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-15. Resolution to accept the conveyance of a V-nose cargo trailer from the UT Extension Office and authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute all documents needed to accept the conveyance. Commissioner Sturgeon?
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Dwight Jones is second. Property Committee?
7-4-0 against.
Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation.
It's pretty self-explanatory. UT Extension no longer needs their V-nose cargo trailer, and they're giving it to the county, and this is accepting it.
Any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button, and confirm. Commissioner Danner. Yours didn't take. If anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-16. Resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute a grant proposal with the State of Tennessee Department of Transportation for state project State Route 96 east of Arno Road to State Route 252. 252. Commissioner Webb.
Move for approval.
Commissioner Dwight Jones is second. Highway Commission was 5-0. Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation.
This is a requirement by the Tennessee Department of Transportation. This road is running through Williamson County, and this authorizes the mayor to sign the grant proposal with TDOT.
Commissioner Lathers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering if this is approved, what is the estimated start date of this project?
Do we have that answer?
Was it in your last TDOT report that I forwarded to you from Representative Wilson?
Sorry.
Mr. Chairman, if you try to answer that. So
Thanks.
part of the easement right-of-ways, engineering studies and acquisitions, those have been ongoing. So I guess you could say they're already started. If you're talking about the actual construction, I don't think anything will be done until after we get the resolution back and then it gets into the next year.
Next year. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-17. Resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute a grant proposal with the State of Tennessee Department of Transportation for state project State Route 106 US 431 Hillsborough Road at Murray Lane. Commissioner Webb.
Move for approval.
Commissioner Dwight Jones is second. Highway Commission was 5-4-0 against. Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation.
This is a similar grant request from TDOT regarding improvements to Hillsborough Road at Murray Lane in Williamson County.
Commissioner Sturgeon.
Is there anyone here that can explain what the modifications are going to be to Murray and Hillsborough Road?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, the long and short of it is they're going to make a turning lane there when you're going north and south, so you can pull in, have a turn lane, and then Murray Lane coming down the other side. Just give some width to the road.
So the turning lanes can be on Murray, or the turning lanes are going to be on Hillsborough?
Road, and there'll be a longer tail on the turning lane coming from Murray Lane, turning left.
Okay.
Back into Hillsborough Road.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-20, resolution providing for a public building authority in Williamson County, Tennessee. Commissioner Webb?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Hullett, the second. Property Committee?
7-4-0 against.
Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation.
I'm going to ask the mayor if he'll come up and address this for us, Mr. Chair. Mayor Anderson.
Commissioner Hullett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, this is another attempt as we're looking long-term about how we build, construct, and fund, not so much funding, but construct our future projects. This was a way that TCA code allows a county to create a public building authority in your community. It requires 3 individuals to live in our county. Those 3 have been identified as Gary Cooper, Brown Daniels, and Ron Crutcher. And as you can see by reading through the documentation, there will be an additional, a minimum of 4 more individuals added to this list to serve in the authority in the event that you all approve this tonight. What's the big advantage of this? I'm going to let Jeff Mosley kind of talk you about from the legal side and how that works. And then when he gets through, I do want to make a correction that I made at both the Budget Committee and the Property Committee. Jeff?
Okay. This is a separate entity that's chartered by the state under the statute. And what it does is it has a little more flexibility on some of the negotiating and financing aspects of building. So as opposed to the sealed bid requirements of the Purchasing Act of 1957 that county construction goes under, this has some more flexibility. While you're still getting competitive bids, it allows for different values. It allows the PBA to actually mortgage the property in a financing package if that is appropriate. But the main thing is the ability to value engineer on the front end as opposed to going through the steps of bidding out a general contractor without having the input as to the subcontractors and the various aspects that may go into a project. So you've got more of an overall comprehensive negotiating ability on the part of the PBA as opposed to what the county is limited to by statute.
So one of the things that Jeff mentioned in the committee that this PBA, Public Building Authority, does not have the ability to tax. That still lies with you. The other thing that we made in the committee in both reports, that it was not applicable to schools. After additional research, and Bobby has done a little bit digger deeping into it, and based upon an individual that came to my office and said that that he was interested in doing some of the schools. That does not give us the authority, but you can do some limited capacity on school oversight with the school board's approval. You can't dictate it. You can't control it. In fact, the Tennessee Code does say there are some limitations. School board cannot delegate its authority to the Public Building Authority, and it can be used to assist with school building projects in a very limited capacity. This was based on a Rutherford County ruling back in 2000 when the county commission worked to do that. So I don't know of any reason we shouldn't attempt this. It does not mean that every single project that we've got coming down the road will be rolled up under this Public Building Authority. But as we look at some of the things that Commissioner Lawrence said about future debt and how we do that, I do not have the personnel on staff that can do these large projects that we know are coming down the pike. Nor do I have the expertise of having those kind of people in the house that will do a lot of this. So our purpose is to go out and get qualified men and women to serve in this board. It is a non-paying board, and there has to be a conflict of interest disclosed with each and every member. I'll answer any questions.
Commissioner Kastner?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. When I first saw this, I was a little worried that the commission would be ceding some of its authority to this to this authority, the building authority. And then the more we talked about it and I thought about it, this seems to be a much more rational way for the county to develop. No for-profit corporation ever goes out and does a design and just puts it out to seal bid and then takes what the results are. That's just not how we do things. I've been involved in $1 billion worth of development in my lifetime. And this allows this entity, the term value engineering got thrown out there. What's that mean? Well, that means you start looking at alternative elements of the building as you're designing it, and you make changes. And while you're making those changes, if you're smart, you're talking to the subcontractor community about, what would this save me? What if we did it this way? How about X, Y, Z? And that's something that the poor school board and the county, we can't do that right now. And so we're forced today to do a whole set of plans, put it out to bid, and then we can either take the bid or we got to start all over, and go back to this whole process. So this is as I said, no one in private industry ever does it that way. I think also with this opportunity, you could enter into different forms of contracts, such as a shared savings form of contract or a cost plus form of contract with a guaranteed max price. I mean, it's just much more protective of the financial situation of developing a building. So I'm all for this. I think it's a great idea.
Commissioner Danner?
I appreciate Commissioner Kestner's information, because and I apologize, I did not go to the Budget Committee, and I'm definitely feeling like this takes power away from the people, because right now they elect the people that make the decisions, and instead these positions would be appointed. But I appreciate your thoughts. Would there not be a way, I mean, I appreciate the desire for expertise. But today, we could hire consultants for expertise. Could we not, on making those decisions? What is the difference between this board and hiring consultants? I feel like the hiring consultants, we could change out people whenever we wanted to. With the appointees, once they're in place for how long? Years?
No, it's a term limit. It's like your industrial development board.
Multiple years then?
Yeah, multiple years. They're rotating in and out.
Okay.
I don't, if I can follow up, Mr. Chairman. I don't know that you're taking power away, Commissioner, from the people, because this body still has, let's say the sheriff comes in with a jail, which we know he is in a few years.
I won't be here.
Or you may not be here, but you're setting the standards and you're setting the footprint to be able to hopefully build that school building or that jail in a much more comprehensive way, as you've heard Commissioner Kestner speak. One of the things that we're not allowed to do, the way we do business now, we take low bid as a normal rule, and then we wind up doing change orders. When you have a public building authority, you're still going to approve the project. They do not have the taxing authority to go, and the PBA does not have the taxing authority to tax people. So you're going to approve the project, whether it's a juvenile center or a jail or whatever large project that is. You're going to have to figure out, we're going to have to figure out a way to pay for it. And then once that's established, that value, that dollar, let's say it's X millions of dollars, and it will be for a jail, then that amount of money is basically, you're telling that PBA that you've got an X amount of dollars in which to build this new facility, and don't come back for change orders. And so you go back to what Commissioner Kestner was talking about. You'd have your owner rep, that person that might represent us, that goes back to the Public Building Authority. It's a much cleaner way of doing business. We're kind of archaic, but that's the way the law is. Rutherford County did this. Several of us went over and looked at it. It's a gorgeous new courthouse. Came in a couple of $1 million under budget and was on time, and time is money. There's other examples that it's done throughout the state on limited capacity, but it's the first time that we've had an opportunity to look at it, and it's just another way we're trying to look out into the future and build projects on a more cost-efficient basis and let them come in on time.
What's the incentive for that, for those board members to, are they paid?
No, they're not. As I indicated earlier, they're not allowed to be paid. The law says that. So you're going to look at retired individuals that have expertise in that area, or you may look at someone that's maybe their craft, maybe their skill set doesn't get into the realm of the magnitude of the dollar amount. It may be an individual firm that's got a $2 to $5 million architect firm that just doesn't have the bonding capacity to do this, but he or she would be willing to serve on that board to give back to their community. We have several of these authorities throughout the area, and all of them are done by men and women that have expertise in their field, and they're not paid, and they have to disclose any kind of conflict.
Okay.
But you still have the authority. In fact, this body has to agree to it. We're just setting it in place.
Commissioner Lawrence?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do want to concur with Commissioner Kastner. I'm not going to repeat a lot of what he said, but the fact that we don't have to do a sealed bid, that's huge. And as Commissioner Kastner said, there's a reason that nobody in the private sector does sealed bids. The potential to save hundreds of thousands of, maybe even millions of dollars by not by being able to just make a change to that process alone could be well worth organizing this body for all the future projects that we do. So I just have one question. If we did extend this to the school board, would they have to set up their own public building authority, or could they use ours?
Now, the way that Bobby has written the opinion, and we'll get it out to you, but it is the school board must have to retain approval authority over the project, including the decision as to where the new school is needed, where it's located, and oversight to ensure that it's designated and constructed to meet the needs of the system. So once the PBA is set in place, if they desire to use the public building authority, then they'll make those contracts, they'll make those arrangements with the PBA. Correct, Bobby?
Correct. Okay. No, that's all my questions. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Sturgeon.
Thank you. Mayor, I would like to maybe make a suggestion. What would be helpful for me is if we could have a time where the commission and the members of this new authority had a chance to get to know each other and exchange information, and maybe for the sports authority as well. I don't know how that would look, but that would, I think, be a great thing.
With her.
Commissioner Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First and foremost, Mayor, I'll commend you on this because I do think that this is this is exciting. I do think that government is inherently inefficient, and this is a good step in that direction in terms of trying to help make the process a little bit more efficient and cost savings that could potentially be involved with it. Two quick questions for you. One, and I did ask this one at the property committee meeting, but I do think it's worth mentioning here just for clarification. The PBA would not have the authority to place a jail wherever they wanted to. The location of such things would still have to go through this board, correct?
Still lies with this point, although you may want them to.
Yeah.
They don't have that authority. That is your authority where that jail goes.
But I do think that's important, that those sort of things that come through here. But Commissioner Danner's comments did get me thinking, and I can't believe I don't know the answer to this. But if there was any reason that a member from one of the members on the PBA needed to be removed for whatever reason, what is the process for that?
I'd have to look specifically, but in general, a public official appointed pursuant to statute, the appropriate remedy is an ouster.
Which would, essentially, they'd have to come before the board here, and the commission would have the authority to pull?
No, that would be the county attorney, the attorney general, or the district attorney has to file proceedings in civil court to oust a public official. The question would be whether this would be defined as a public official. and absent, I'd have to, I haven't looked at the statute in that regard, Commissioner, so I apologize, but absent something in the statute that gave you a specific ability to remove a member of the Public Building Authority, it would have to be through ouster.
Interesting, okay. Would you mind getting clarification on that? That would be helpful for our next meeting in
I think
July.
that's the answer, but I'll confirm it and get out an email to everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Mason.
Thank you. Several questions, Mayor. How was it that these three individuals have been appointed or already spearheading this committee? Where did their names come from?
Well, all three of these are people in the community that I knew. Since I don't have the authority to set it up, the nonprofit, I called them, explained to them what we were attempting to do when they let us use their name.
And you said that there would be an additional up to four people appointed to this committee.
The minimum is 7 to be on the board. You can't have more. And so the process is, once you approve this tonight, then we'll file the necessary paperwork for it to be a nonprofit to go with the comptroller's office and get that rolling. I would hope to have these names brought back to you in the month of July, next month.
And what is the process if an individual in the community wanted to be a part of this board? Do they submit a nomination through your office?
Simply pick up the phone and call us or email us and let us know.
And the skill set that we're looking for, is it construction minded? Is it finance? What is the specific skill set?
A combination of all of those. We would certainly love to have somebody on there that's got some abilities in the construction trade, architect, engineer, and the financial side too was very important.
And to follow up on the ouster question, in order to initiate ouster proceedings, am I correct that there would have to be some type of bad act done? It's not just we don't like how they're performing, but they've actually done something, whether it arises to a criminal nature or just a bad act.
It's not a criminal standard, but it's in general, it's mismal or nonfeasance of office, it's misconduct in office, or neglecting a duty that is affirmatively placed on a public official. That's the standard.
So if these individuals were deemed public officials, just because we disagreed with their process or disagreed with their decisions, that wouldn't give rise to an ouster?
No, that would be politicizing the ouster process. Now, if they did not perform a duty pursuant to statute or a project that you had put out to them, that could be a misconduct that would rise to that level.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Lauders.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think a lot of my questions were addressed. I just wanted to echo that if you've been involved with putting projects in the ground, which I have in Nolensville with a town hall and a sewer and a road project, I can't address enough the importance of value engineering. And I'm going to embarrass him, but even when we were building our town hall, we met with Kevin Fortney here because he does such a great job with schools. You know, when you're in the municipal small town level, you're trying to get as many expert opinions, knowledgeable folks. We have a design review committee of architects that volunteer their time. And it's such an asset to a community when you have stakeholders who contribute their talents and gifts and all that. So I'm in support of this. I think it's going to be a great asset to you and also to us as a commission. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button and confirm. Oppose your no button and confirm. Anyone that's wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-21. Resolution to call for a referendum in accordance with Tennessee Code Annotated Section 57-4-103 as to whether sale of alcoholic beverages for the consumption on the premises should be permitted in the unincorporated areas of Williamson County. Commissioner Sturgeon?
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Kestner, the second. Budget Committee.
3 for, 1 against, 1 abstain.
Explanation.
Yeah, I've worked on this project on this resolution for several months with Jack Walton, and Councilor Cook. And it originated because the residents in my district, and actually many around the county, have told me that they would like to be able to go to a local restaurant, perhaps in the unincorporated county, and be able to get a glass of wine or a beer. We've also had a problem with many of the businesses in the Grassland area shutting down, like the Foodland. And after the Foodland went, the Rite Aid went next to it. And this is not a solution to everything, but it's to provide a more business-friendly environment in the unincorporated areas. Because right now, if I wanted to open up a restaurant in Grassland, I probably wouldn't, because I'm not sure it'd be a good investment, knowing I couldn't compete with the restaurants in Cool Springs or Brentwood that can sell alcohol by the glass. And I want to point out, this is not a resolution to provide for liquor stores. That doesn't apply. But if this had passed, let's say 2 years ago, the Foodland would have been able to sell wine by the bottle, if I understand that correctly from the counselor. So I would just encourage you all to allow the people to choose. This resolution would create a referendum on the November ballot. And the residents in the unincorporated county could then go and decide for themselves whether they wanted this or not. And I believe we would need 50% of the voters plus one for it to work. So,
thank you. Commissioner Hester.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I signed this legislation because I do believe that I want the best possible situation for the Grassland area, but I don't think the best solution for Grassland might apply to my constituents who live on Flat Creek Road. So I wonder, and then of course I'm concerned about the cost of a referendum, but I wonder if there is another direction that we can take this evening.
Can I answer that objection?
Are you directing that at?
I'm directing that legal counsel.
Question.
Commissioner, I just want to make sure I understand what you're asking. You're asking whether there's another alternative other than bringing a referendum that would permit consumption on the premises or liquor by the drink without having to go through a referendum. Is that your question?
Yes, sir, basically, Bobby.
There is. It's not a county-wide blanket alternative, and we've actually used it once before. It's basically a process where an establishment can go to our state reps, and what they do is they ask for state legislation to amend the liquor by the drink law to provide an exception just for that establishment so that they are able to go and seek a license. I think we did it with the Country Boy. The actual legislation that they end up amending is quite long. It's dozens and dozens of pages because every year there's 5 or 6 of these establishments that come forward and ask for their state reps to provide this exception to them. So it's commonly used. It's not a blanket approval process like a referendum, but it does provide an alternative to certain establishments.
Yes. So would you recommend that possibly we defer this resolution until we get more information until we can educate ourselves a little bit more on this matter?
Commissioner, that's completely up to you whether you want to make a motion to defer. Like I said, it's an alternative that we already understand the process because we've used it before.
Yes.
And since the General Assembly's out of session, it won't be back until January, February.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the reason for a deferral would be. However, again, that's your all's call.
I would then like to make a motion to defer this resolution until a later date so that we can possibly save the amount of money we would spend on a referendum, a public referendum. Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second. Can I say something? There's no cost to a referendum. There's no
Hang
cost.
hang on just a second. Good. All right, we've got a motion to defer. That takes precedence. Is it discussable?
Yes, a
Yes,
motion.
it is debatable. So, we have a motion to defer. That is debatable, so if you've requested to speak, do you want to speak on the deferral? If not, we're going to skip.
You have no second yet.
Yes, Betsy, yeah.
Yes, we do.
Commissioner Herbert seconded it.
Okay.
So, Mr. Hullett, do you want to speak on the deferral?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we talked about this at great length in the Budget Committee, and it was one of the deciding factors for me in voting for it. So, Council, if you would, for public consumption here, would you confirm that there is no financial impact since it's on the November?
If my understanding is the window that we have passed in terms of doing it now or the July meeting would in fact meet the requirements for the November election.
And so there would be no cost?
It would be tied on to another election, so yes.
Thank you, sir.
Let's see, Commissioner Danner, did you have it on the deferral?
Mr. Hollett asked the question that
All
I
right.
wanted to know.
Commissioner Ford on the deferral? Okay. Commissioner Clark on the deferral?
I was in line with Commissioner Hollett and Commissioner Danner.
Okay. Commissioner Ford?
Still not
Commissioner Ryan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may have a clarification, clarifying question for Commissioner Hester. Commissioner Hester, if I may, so I noticed that you're a sponsor of the resolution. What has changed? Because I'm assuming that you had a pretty clear understanding of the resolution before going forward. What has changed in your mind? If you could help me understand what's changed in your mind as far as looking to defer it.
What has changed my mind is that we have in District 2, in my district, we have community markets, and their ambiance, their structure is very different from what we would experience in the Grassland area. So that is just my concern. What would be appropriate for Grassland is not necessarily appropriate for Flat Creek.
Okay, but you weren't aware of that when you signed this originally?
Actually, no, I wasn't aware of all of the fine-tuning of this
Okay,
resolution.
and that's perfect. That's what I needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see anyone else on the...
I'd like to speak to the deferral.
Okay, all right, well, all right. Commissioner, press your button.
I did 5 times.
Okay, all right, well, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm kind of confused here. I'm real confused here. I guess if the deferral passes, then, you know, we don't get to speak to the base resolution, and so what I'm going to say cuts across both of these. I don't understand. First of all, it's very clear that the reason that Commissioner Sturgeon did this at this time was because there is zero cost. It gets put on an existing ballot, and there's no cost. And it's pretty time-bound as to how many days out you can pass this and have that happen to sync up with the November election. It is a Republican ideal and principle to limit government and to allow people to decide things. And I think everybody in this room runs as a Republican, but this is a real litmus test as to what you really are, in my mind. This doesn't cost people anything. It allows the public to decide and to determine what's going on. I don't see how any of these arguments or discussions are going to change if we defer this for another month. I think the idea of going, yes, there's a workaround that's been done in the original Country Boy. I don't know if the current Country Boy has the same workaround where you go to the state legislature, you get Jack Johnson and Sam Witz and all these people to run this thing through the state legislature, which is a colossal waste of the legislature's time on a restaurant-by-restaurant basis. There are unincorporated county-based restaurants. There's the Country Boy that in its current iteration. There's the Nashville Pizza Kitchen in Grassland. There's 1892, which is named that because it's the year the building was built in Leapers Fork. There's the Daily Dish, which is kind of morphed and changed. There's Eddie Miles' development at the end of South Hall Road. Jack Russell's in Grassland failed literally because they did not have liquor by the drink. You know, that's a sad thing. You've disadvantaged, you know, if you're a Republican, you're also supposed to be for free market enterprise and, you know, the private market and capitalism, and this is all about that. It's crazy to disadvantage people if you're in the unincorporated county. And there's, in terms of, are there going to be restaurants popping up all over the place? No, because we don't have sewers. So it's not as though you're going to have bars popping up and down on Flat Creek Road. I'm also proud of the fact that I've co-sponsored, thanks to Commissioner Sturgeon, the last resolution that Jack Walton will ever co-sponsor, and I'd like to see his wishes prevail. So thank you.
Commissioner Lathers on the deferral.
Deferral, I just want to clarify, if there are those that are struggling with this tonight and they don't want to see it defeated, am I hearing correctly that if we do defer by 1 month, it will not prevent it from being heard next month and be on the November ballot? Is that correct?
Bobby shaking his head, yes, that's correct.
If it were addressed in July, it would still meet the time requirements for the November ballot.
I think what some of us as commissioners are looking at, we want to say absolutely yes to Grassland, and then we look at some of our areas that I've heard already from people from my area that are very concerned about this, another area that's very for it. The unincorporated area is so diverse. I think that's what maybe a couple of commissioners are looking at. And, you know, I'm more for this than against it, but I don't think there's a problem with a deferral by 1 month if we need to give it some more thought. I know I have some legal questions. Like in a municipality, you can't increase the food requirement that the state requires to serve liquor by the drink. That's a municipality's judgment. People who are worried about there's not enough food being served and people are going to be drunk and it's going to be a, you know, drop-in drunk place, and, you know, you have that authority. I don't think the county has that authority. Yes. So I just still have questions, and but I don't mean in any way not to be supportive, but I'm one of those people that I have more questions, and they're probably legal in nature. So only for that reason, I'm in support of a deferral to protect it.
Commissioner Danner, on the deferral.
Yes, on the deferral. So this is not
I'm sorry, Barb, but she's already spoken. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I've heard on the deferral, people looking to the deferral to help them know whether it is good for their area. To be clear, my understanding is this is not a question for us to decide whether it's good for our area or not. It's to decide to let the people decide if it's good for them or not. This is a referendum to let the people weigh in. Yes. So I don't need any more time to decide whether or not to let the people decide.
Yeah. Commissioner Sturgeon.
Yeah, thank you. Kathy just pretty much made my point. I'm not asking you to decide whether it's we should make it legal or not. I'm just asking that you give the people the choice whether they want to have it or not. And we let them choose whether they wanted a sales tax increase or not. I don't think it's out of line to let them choose this as well. And let the chips fall as they may. We'll see what the vote is in November. That's my perspective. So I would ask y'all to approve this today and not defer it. Thank you.
Commissioner Lathers.
Yeah, I would like to clarify my comments on that because I feel like I've been misunderstood. Obviously, our county, our unincorporated area is more populous in certain sections. So on any kind of referendum, you know, the greater populated area will have the stronger voice, something that will impact the entire county. And I am fine if we can stay here and I can have all my legal questions answered. I'm happy to vote on this tonight. But I have not had, I've asked people walking into committee meetings. I'm trying to do my diligence as a commissioner. I'm all for the people deciding. But when they're voting, they need to know what they're voting for. So when they vote for that, are they saying it's the same rules for every part of the county? Are they saying, okay, it's the state regs that will dictate what the percentage of food requirement is on those establishments. You know, it's good to educate the public on what the referendum is actually meaning, and we're setting that up for them. So if I'm as a commissioner, I'm voting for, yes, let's have a referendum, and I don't have the questions answered for my constituents and what that really means for their area, then that's the only reason for 1 month more. But please help me understand why 1 month is so critical, because I'm feeling like that is not as significant of a thing to get questions answered. I feel there's a pushback on pushing, and really if it doesn't affect the referendum in November, why is there not an interest in having more questions answered for some of us that would like them answered? Just have a question on that.
Commissioner Parrish.
Mr. Chairman, I call the question.
Second. Question been called and seconded. All in favor of question say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So we're now voting for the deferral for 1 month. We will bring it back at the July meeting, and it would not affect the election date. If you're in favor of the deferral, push your yes button, opposed your no button, and confirm. Anyone who can change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
6 for, 15 no.
Deferral fails. Now back to the resolution. Discussion on the resolution as presented. Commissioner Kestner.
I will just reiterate one point, and that is that if this commission votes to not know the will of the people, then I'll be ashamed of this commission. Thank you.
Commissioner Ford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This absolutely is a resolution that's in support of small business, and we need to do what we can to encourage small business growth in our unincorporated areas. I do have a couple of questions. Will we need to make any changes, and I know Christy is not here tonight, to our zoning regulations to have this go into effect?
I don't know the answer to that. I would assume that if the referendum were passed, if there were an impact on the zoning, that would have to be taken up by the zoning commission and brought back to you. But quite honestly, we haven't looked at that question.
Okay, thank you very much. My second question is, would we have the ability, I know we have done those master plans for several of our small communities there, and we have a different one for Grassland than we do for Leapers Fork. Would we have the ability within those individual community plans to alter anything in this resolution, or would it apply across the board?
It's our opinion that it would apply to all unincorporated areas of the county.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm very much in favor of this. It's a great small business resolution, and a great resolution of letting the people decide, and I happen to trust the voters. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Parrish.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is probably a question for legal, but it seems like this is sort of a correction from the law that allowed wine to be sold in grocery stores to begin with for unincorporated areas. Like it went to the city for votes.
Yeah, Commissioner, this has nothing to do with that. This is a completely different process. It was actually kind of carved out. Usually it takes a referendum for 10% of the citizens that voted in the last governor's race. This is sort of like just an exception to liquor served on premises. So the 2/3 vote that's going to require, it's a kind of a new process, and it's separate and distinct from approving wine in grocery stores.
Anything? Commissioner Danner?
Yes. To Commissioner Law, there's a very good point on the education of ourselves and of the people on this. What is there anybody in the county's office or in the mayor's office, I'm sorry, that would be putting out the education on this, or the election commission? Would they be putting out any information to help educate the voter on what this was about?
Either
of you.
The
the mayor's office can't advocate for a position.
Not advocate,
on
but
the-
just to help educate the wording and what it is that we're voting.
Just ask Chad. He doesn't have anyone, and I can assure you we don't have anyone. The educational component is usually done through advocacy.
Friends at the newspaper right there.
Yeah, through advocacy. We just finished having a referendum in February in which a particular group took it on to help educate the general public of how that was done. But legal counsel has told me I can't take sales tax dollars and promote an item or take dollars to promote or try to get one defeated. And that's
And I wasn't asking you to take a position. I just didn't know if there were any educational
we
responsibilities.
don't deal with that right now. This is if you're in the city, I guess Beth and Paul, the ones that have served on these city boards, Mrs. Anderson handles the beer boards, but we don't have anybody in county that deals with the mixed drink component of this. I think the educational component is very important because people are going to call our office.
Yep.
And, they're going to call for sure.
So if we pass this, then I guess hopefully the newspaper will print that there's going to need to be some public education, and hopefully some advocacy groups would come forward.
Commissioner Lathers?
Thank you, Commissioner Danner. That was exactly my point. I, too, am in complete support of this being a referendum for the people to decide. And I think what would be really, really positive to remove the fear factor is to be very straightforward, just very empirical and objective. People don't understand that this is really monitored by the state. The state has the Alcohol and Beverage Commission. They have requirements for people to be educated who serve alcohol. Institutions, they lose their license if they don't do it correctly. In Nolensville, we have a very successful liquor by the drink program. We actually have a very successful packaged liquor too, which is not what we're talking about. So I want to make it very clear. I'm always for a referendum, but let's make sure through the press and through the state that we remove the fear, but give them all the information so they can make the best decision, which is our democracy. Thank you.
And if I can answer, I'm not supposed to comment, but if I can answer a question that you had asked, because I had asked this question earlier of legal, and we can make stronger requirements like Nolensville did. That is within the county's authority, within the zoning, I guess in the zoning regulator. Bobby, yeah, maybe you want to.
Yeah, obviously you can do certain changes in the zoning that would restrict certain facilities. Whether, depending on how big a facility must be, say restaurants got to serve 70 people or something like that. The state guidance on that actually does provide some guidance on the definition of restaurant. They also do provide a section on local regulation. But we have not really taken a look and see what kind of extent that would include. But to answer your question, restaurant, that sort of thing is already defined by the state.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button, opposed your no button, and confirm. For 6/18/21 as presented. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
Okay, just a second. Okay, I have 18 yes, 3 no.
Resolution passes.
By the required 2/3.
By the required 2/3. Yes, this required a 2/3 vote. I failed to mention that. 33 is next. Resolution 6-18-33. Resolution declaring certain solid waste department property and equipment surplus property and authorizing the sale of the property and equipment. Commissioner Webb?
For approval. Second.
Commissioner Hullett, the second. Solid Waste Board. Did it meet?
3-4-3-0.
Yes. Property Committee? Was it 7-0?
Yes.
Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Okay. Explanation.
This is, the Solid Waste Department has some piece of equipment that really need to be surplus and gotten rid of, and this is just authorizing us to do so.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-34. Resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into a service agreement with Williamson, Inc., doing business as Williamson County Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development for continued operation of the Williamson County Office of Economic Development. Commissioner Webb?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Hulk, the second. Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation.
This authorizes the mayor to negotiate with the Williamson County, Inc., the Chamber of Commerce for the county, to continue have them providing the Economic Development Office.
Any questions? Commissioner Danner?
Yeah, it's all right. I thought that we were trying to wean ourselves off of this. Is this the same? Is this the same amount of money that we were covering when this office was under the county umbrella? And then I thought that when the chamber, we moved economic development over to the chamber, that we were going to wean ourselves off of that in 3 to 5 years. Why are we still doing this?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to defer to the mayor.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, this is year-by-year service agreement that you all have the authority to enter into with the operation of our economic development.
So it is the same amount we've been paying?
No, ma'am. This is the agreement. The amount, is the amount built into this? I didn't pull is the amount built into it, Kathy?
I thought it was.
400,000?
Yeah, so it's not that I don't think the department, the economic development, doesn't do a good job. I always thought that they have. I just thought that the whole idea of moving it out of the public domain and into the private domain was to wean ourselves off of subsidizing this. I feel like this is more of a want to than need to. I feel like the Department of Economic Development, now that it's under the private sector of the chamber, could certainly function without continued government subsidy.
If I could follow back up with that, Kel's here somewhere. There he is. If you'd like to ask those individual questions to them, he's a representative of the economic development. The agreement it hasn't changed. It's got benchmarks, where they work at, the areas of expertise, that whole level.
Yeah, so basically our plan to wean ourselves off is no longer. We're just going to continue to renew this year over year. Yeah.
Commissioner Lawrence?
I don't have a question, Chairman. I just read the answer to my question.
Okay. Commissioner Kestner?
So does this include the dollar amount that's in the budget right now or not? That's yet to come, right? That'll be in the July budget. So if somebody wanted to amend that dollar amount, that would happen in the July meeting. This is just simply the contract itself, correct? Got it. Thank you.
The terms and condition. I'm conferring with legal. Give me just a second.
Yeah, and I was just rereading that portion of it, which does state that the county pays to the chamber the amount equal to the county's what the county legislative body appropriates in the annual budget, not to exceed $400,000.
So the answer to my question is yes, you would.
Correct.
If we wanted to amend the amount.
It would be in the budget.
Okay, thank you. So this is the who question, and the how much question comes in July, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Sturgeon?
Yeah, my question was more along the lines of, when I first read this, it seemed like it included they were a lease of space or equipment, or does the county provide any of those things, or do we fund them and they rent their own space and they provide their own equipment?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, we write them a check. They take care of the rent, the lease, their building, everything. All we do is write the check to them. They have to, on a quarterly basis, they have to justify their hitting those benchmarks as outlined in this agreement. And if they do that, they get the full amount of money, whatever is put in as far as the money. I should also go back, I was sitting down over there. I should also relay to you when I was sitting down, and Bobby reminded that we're required to have an economic development board. Yeah. And one of the reasons we broke the economic development off, because it used to be up underneath all of us, was under my jurisdiction, because you had some of those confidentiality issues that come up between a particular company wanting to locate here, and once they come into this body or into my office, then that information becomes public, and therefore that was seen as a negative to begin those negotiations. So that was one of the reasons that we broke off that agreement. It broke off into the agreement we have now. But all we do is write the check, they hit the benchmarks, and they have to keep it in the area of economic development. That money doesn't flow into some other avenue that they may have. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button and confirm. Opposed, your no button and confirm. Commissioner Jones? Commissioner Pear?
I'd like to call a ruling of the Ethics Committee on
Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson. It's getting late.
20 yes, 1 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 37. I got my papers mixed up. 36. Where is 36?
Easement.
Pardon me, I was out of order. Late filed resolution 6-18-36. Resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to grant an easement to Middle Tennessee Electric Membership Corporation for property located at Fairview Boulevard. Commissioner Sturgeon?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Lathers. Property Committee?
7-4-0 against.
Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation.
Yeah, this is to provide another easement for a power pole.
Any questions? Commissioner Danner.
So Commissioner Lawther said I should have branded this the Danner Ease of Easement. Just remember that, the ease of easements. Consent agenda.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button, and confirm. Commissioner Lawrence? Anyone wishing to change your votes, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6-18-37. Resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute a contract with the State of Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation for the enforcement and payment received for vehicle emissions testing. Commissioner Webb?
Move for approval.
Highway Commission was 5-4-0 against. Explanation?
If you look at this, this is a contract that we have to have with the state of Tennessee that allows us that the state will pay $1 for each of the emissions tests conducted, and this will continue until the state or other agencies decide that emissions testing is no longer required.
Any questions? Commissioner Mason.
I don't know the answer to this, which is why I'm asking. What is the threshold that mandates a county to be subject to admissions testing? Because I work and drive through many of counties that does not require it. Is it a population issue?
Actually, as I recall, it was an EPA non-attainment that came down for Nashville and the donut counties around Nashville.
Okay.
And I think some of them have now reached attainment and they may no longer be under it, but that was the original map as I remember it.
So it started out as a geographical requirement because of our location, and if we meet a certain threshold with air quality, then we no longer are mandated.
I think you have to go back and get relief from the EPA directive, and I don't know the process for that in particular, but we're still under the requirement right now.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lawrence.
Yeah, well, I just had a comment about that. That's correct. It is an EPA regulation, and I did check into that, and there are some states that have been able to get exemptions, and I do believe we need to work towards that, because this is a huge nuisance for all of our citizens here. It's not terribly expensive, but it's a fairly large cost if you have several vehicles, and just the time element. Not to mention you're putting a lot of cars on the road driving to the testing center, so there's emissions going into the air. But there's so many cars that come through our county from the west on I-40 and up and down I-65. Thousands of cars a day come from some of these other counties that we have no control over. So it's really grossly unfair to say these counties have to do it and the other counties don't. So I'll probably try to work on this again with our state reps, should I get reelected later this year, and maybe work on getting some exemptions.
Commissioner Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If it's a state requirement, kind of like Greg said, why are only certain counties required to participate? If we have to ask the state for a reprieve or whatever.
It's a federal directive that comes down through the state on attainment. The EPA gives the federal government gives the state monies, and it ties that to certain attainments. In this case, the measurement was in the Nashville area, and the attainment zone was around Nashville, Davidson County, and the surrounding. So we have to work through the state to get relief from the federal directive, is my understanding of it.
Have we started the process to do that? To work
No, I
with
believe
the
that's
state?
what the commissioner was just referring to, that he would be starting later this year.
If I may answer that, yes, we try. Well, the response I got was that there was no impetus at the time at the state legislature to do anything about it, but that was under a previous administration in Washington. Now things are different. I think it could be a better time to address this issue.
So if we don't renew the contract, are we only losing out on that $1 per vehicle?
Yes, but we still have to do the testing. This is only the part that gives us the revenue. We still have to do the testing.
And is it a one-year agreement?
Commissioner, that's one of the reasons why it's late filed, is because it's actually a 5-year agreement, a grant agreement. And the new legislation provides that should the feds come back and say, you know, you can remove this requirement, 120 days after that approval is getting. There's an exception in the new law that says that unless you're under a contract. So we would have to wait 5 years. We've discussed it with the state. They understand that that's in there. They're required to come back with an amendment to those counties that have this kind of contract. And so that's why it's a late file. We're waiting for that to come back to assure us that we'd have the ability to get out of this contract should we be able to avail ourselves to this new law.
What would be the negative to wait until next month to renew this contract? Can you do that?
Because it takes effect July 1. And you don't meet till July 9th. It just provides the county with $1 per vehicle. You still have to do everything underneath that's in that contract. This way, you just get $1 for it for each vehicle.
Anything else? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button, opposed your no button, and confirm. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
20 yes, 1 no.
I like it.
Resolution passes. Okay. Reminder, the July Commission meeting will be July 9th at 9 o'clock in the morning. It is our one-day meeting. So it will be at 9 o'clock. If there's nothing else, yes, ma'am.
The budget review is tomorrow at 5:30.
Correct. The public hearing. This is budget for tomorrow at 5:30. Yes.
Commissioner Webb to repeat the information about the services for Chairman Walton.
Visitation is Wednesday from 4 to 8 p.m. at Williamson Memorial Funeral Home. Visitation will also be Thursday morning from 9:30 a.m. until 11 a.m. at St. Matthew's Catholic Church on Sneed Road, with the service to start at 11 a.m. at the church on Thursday.
Okay. Is there anything else? Entertain a motion. So, we're adjourned.